Testing mic 4, 1, 2, 3. Testing mic 1, 1, 2, 3.
Win this thing every year, huh?
Every year.
He's coming for you.
I'm coming for
Against the Dolphins.
it.
No, that's not what you do.
I just pick against the Dolphins. Which has been because these guys are homers.
Oh.
Who is a homer? Are you kidding me?
Not so much you, but.
All right, well, I haven't decided what I'm going to do this weekend yet.
Mics are hot.
Oh, and now the mic's hot.
Even though we're battling for first.
Mics haven't been hot, so you missed my whole teenager rant?
Honestly, I go by the point spread a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot. If the Ravens are favored by 4, why would I take the Dolphins? Why would I? Because there's no point spread in ours. Like, why
Sure.
Would you take the like, why wouldn't you? Like, if
Take
you
the favorite.
You would get the
Right.
I don't have to give you 4 points. You might as well. And plus, what are the chances of the Dolphins winning on the road at Baltimore? The Ravens obviously have much better chances, I think. Better team at home.
I think it's worth debating whether or not the Dolphins are a better team than the Ravens.
Won't win, but
I mean,
the odds are really in the Ravens' favor.
I guess Vegas feels like the Ravens are a better
What's the
team. if
line
they're
on
favored
this
by-
game?
You said it's 4? Did you just throw that out there, or is it really 4?
But I was imagining that's what it probably would be.
I bet you it's 2.5 or 3. Maybe 3. I bet you it's 3. It should be
Nah.
3. No, you don't think it's 3?
I don't know.
Beat the Dolphins at 4.
That's what you're going to give me?
Yeah. What are we betting?
I'm looking at it up right now, so we don't have to bet anything. It's 3.5.
Okay, so this is like a pick'em game.
It's
huh?
before big game time. No, they think the Ravens. Vegas thinks the Ravens are a better team, just slightly.
Defense-wise, maybe, right?
What's now the Dolphins are good now?
It
Yeah,
was all.
It was all
hinged on
you.
you, Andrew.
I know. And I
It
said,
all
it's
hinged on
fine.
you
I'm
giving
like,
up.
all right, and then they're actually good. But we'll see. Baltimore. What do you think? Back to earth?
yeah. It's not back to earth. There's really a culture change. There's like totally a culture change. I'm not even gonna lie to you. People actually believe in Tannehill. Can you imagine that? But they need that offensive line back. If they don't get the offensive line back, I'm not buying that it'll last for very
Can
long.
I hedge my pick in this show,
Long-term,
depending on whether or not?
Huh?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
They got a coach who can coach.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. They got a coach that can coach. This hair is going to be a problem. I should have tied it up, but I'm not smart enough to do
I might
that.
have to hedge. I might have to hedge on my pick.
Oh, we're out live in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Oh, that's okay. I'm so mad that they missed the whole teenage rant.
You can
I
give it to
can't
them in
recreate-
overtime.
I
if you
can't
want.
recreate
no, you
that,
can't.
though.
You really can't.
Yeah, I just can't.
Okay, listen, if you're watching right now, send us your questions. We will answer them on X's and Omar Overtime.
Man, there's some really good X's and Omar questions.
Yeah, Omar's already picked the 9 best ones from earlier this week that we will answer during the show. None of them are about Deion Jordan, so
Yeah, he's actually going to practice now. He's actually there. Oh, my God. Anyway, this sucks.
yeah, send us your questions and we'll do our best.
We're beginning the show now. Don't you have ties to like Baltimore?
Do I have what?
Don't you?
Ties?
Yeah.
No. Homicide: Life on the Streets, one of my favorite shows of all time. Is that?
No,
close?
give me 1 second. I need a minute. I need like a minute to figure out what's going on practice-wise. So Devontae Parker is not practicing. No surprise there, considering
No.
he left in the back brace.
Someone has reported that Albert and Tunsil are dressed.
Yes. The question is, dress for practice. Okay, Albert dressed for practice. That's a step in the right direction, though.
Someone else has tweeted out that they are both practicing.
Okay. Holy shakazulu. I promised people the Harlem Shake if he practiced.
All right. That's it then. Guess what?
It's Harlem Shake time?
No, I'm picking the Fins.
See, there's no guarantee that he could play with that wrist, though.
Nope, but I'm picking the Fins.
Look at you. All right.
I hope you all pick against him again.
You're just trying to. You just need to do what Kevin Lerner does to keep it till like the final week.
Oh, no, see, because if I keep it to the final week, I will waste my opportunity to talk smack. So I got to do it now.
All right, I'm ready.
Week 13, here we go. Welcome to the Week 13 edition of X's and Omar. The Finns are headed to Baltimore trying to win their 7th straight game. Alongside Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln, and this team just keeps doing it. 6 straight wins for the first time since 2005, when Nick Saban was the head coach of this team, and they've kept winning despite having to go on the road, despite big-time injuries, despite the caliber of opponent. How does this keep happening?
I think there's been a culture change. I wrote in a Sun Sentinel column. I've been talking to players, probably going back to the Steelers game. This feels a little different. It's not what I'm accustomed to. And basically, I've talked to players who've been here for a while. The Cameron Wakes, who's been here since 2009. Even Matt Moore, who's been here, since 2011. He's been part of 2 coach firings. Right. There's a culture change. To get to the bottom of that culture change, you have to understand that it comes with a new coaching staff. And both Adam Gase and Vance Joseph have changed the tone of trust and accountability that players have within each other and then players have within their coaching staff. Players now on defense believe that, hey, for the first time, if we actually just do what this defensive coordinator calls, do our job, don't leave the reservation. Just do what we're responsible for doing. We will ultimately, I might not make the play, but we will ultimately win as a defense. And think about it. They have improved tremendously since the 6-game winning streak.
But it's got to be more than that, right? It's got to be more than just being held accountable, because you've got guys like Bakari Rambo who are making big plays. You've got guys like Anthony. These are cast-offs.
Yes.
It's got to be more than just holding themselves accountable, right? Because these kind of no-name guys are stepping up and making winning plays.
No, absolutely. You make a very valid point. The GM, Chris Greer, and Mike Tannenbaum deserve a ton of credit for the evaluation of guys like Bakari Rambo, guys like Andre Branch. Bakari Rambo got here on the bye week, practiced for 1 week, and instantly started playing. Then he became a starter 2 weeks later. That never happens.
No, yeah.
That never happens. This is a guy that everybody in the NFL said no thanks to in October. Props to him for resurrecting his career, but then props to the evaluation staff for identifying that he is a good player. Andre Branch, since Andre Branch and Cameron Wake became a starter, it wasn't just Cameron Wake. Andre Branch is playing pretty well. This defense has not lost. This team has not lost. There are still some issues that need to be addressed. Defensive tackle play is not good enough. Linebacker play is not good enough. But the secondary continues to improve. They're the 7th best secondary in the NFL right now in terms of passer rating at 84.5. This is a team that started the year at 95. Every quarterback was playing at a Pro Bowl level. They have drastically improved despite the loss of Xavier Howard, who beginning of the year we said was one of the best cornerbacks on the team, one of the best defenders on the team. They've continued to improve despite the loss of Rashad Jones, Pro Bowl caliber player. Yet they just continue to get better, and you got to give a lot of credit to the coaching.
And now the Dolphins are headed to Baltimore with a chance for their first 7-game win streak since 1985. I was young. I'll just leave it at that. What would achieving something like that mean for the direction of where this franchise is going?
If you think about it, we're talking about a streak that hasn't happened since Dan Marino was in his 3rd year.
Right.
Since Ryan Tannehill wasn't born for 3 years. Like, this streak, it's long older than Ryan Tannehill. So this would be a cosmic, mind-altering, orgasmic kind of achievement for Dolphins team and Dolphin fans. It means that you've arrived as a team. If you manage to go in Baltimore, play a very good team, probably one of the best defenses in the NFL. Yes, their offense is struggling, but beat one of the best teams in the NFL with what you've got going on from an injury standpoint, that offensive line with Devontae Parker, and find a way to produce a win, man, you should be excited.
And I think, too, well, we'll get more into that game against the Ravens coming up a little bit. Let's take our first Twitter question of the show. From Sam, what do you think is behind the lack of national coverage for the Dolphins during this winning streak compared to other teams?
I would say a decade of mediocrity.
Yeah.
You have earned the disrespect of the national media is giving you as a Dolphins organization, because you've been the laughingstock of the NFL. Arguably, no franchise has been as bad as the Dolphins consistently, except for the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
You put yourself in that neighborhood. You put yourself in that company with bad selections of coaches, Cam Cameron, the embarrassment of Tony Sperano sticking with him too long and then going out flirting with Harbaugh, the hiring of Joe Philbin, sticking with Joe Philbin after you knew he wasn't a good coach. You put yourself in this situation. You fired a coach 4 games into the season last year. Let's not pretend like you aren't bad as an organization. But sometimes it takes one good hire to transform the team. And when you look at what the Dallas Cowboys are doing and the New York Giants are doing, these are teams that are on similar 6-game winning streaks. Dallas is obviously
Sure,
in the NFL.
they deserve what they're getting.
Dallas is without a doubt. They're winning with a rookie quarterback. They're winning with Ezekiel Elliott as the best running back in the NFL. Dallas is hot.
Right.
Their defense, there's nothing to that defense, yet they're playing well. That is a well-coached team. And then the New York Giants, they put a crap load of money. They did a Steve Ross offseason where they were just like, here, throw the cash at the
Right.
problem. And it's somehow panning out for them, even though I don't really think that they're that good of a team. But to do it against the caliber opponents that Dallas and the New York Giants is doing it against, 2 thumbs up. Miami, I think a lot of people are saying, well, San Diego's not that hot. The Rams aren't that good. San Francisco, ha, 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 ha.
Right.
It's, but you do it against Baltimore, people will respect you.
Well, and I think too that while all that is got its own merits,
Yeah.
I just don't think a lot of national media have watched the Dolphins. They aren't
They haven't.
playing these primetime games that the Giants are playing, that the
True.
Cowboys are
Okay,
playing.
that's fair.
So I think there are lots of people across the country that have maybe seen a play here, a play there on Red Zone, but they're not putting a good portion of their preparation into watching these subpar teams that the Dolphins
True.
are playing.
None of the national media who regularly choose a game of the week, the Dolphins haven't had a game of the week.
Right.
They're not on national television except for when they got beaten down by Cincinnati.
Right.
So you make a very valid point. But I also think the sex appeal isn't there. You don't have Jay Ajayi gave you sex appeal for a couple of
Yes,
weeks.
he did. Yep.
And you still have a little bit of sexiness to him, even though he only gained 45 yards last week. But if you had Ryan Tannehill playing like like a Luck, Andrew Luck, and technically he is. He's outplaying Andrew Luck, but he doesn't have the name, the cachet, the appeal of Andrew Luck. But if people realize that Ryan Tannehill is now playing at 120 quarterback level for the past 4 weeks, they'd be like, maybe we need to check out this Ryan Tannehill and see if there has been improvement.
And I think if lots can change too if they could find a way to win in Baltimore this weekend.
Yeah.
Next question from Jose. How do we avoid a meltdown in December like the one the 2013 team had?
Oh, man, that 2013 collapse was monumental because if you remember, the Dolphins went into games against Buffalo and the Jets. I believe both were at home. And all they had to do was win one to make it to the playoffs.
They didn't know at the beginning that all it was going to take was win one. But by the end, that's the way it all shook down. Was just a win over one of them would have done it.
And they had a 3-interception performance by Tannehill, allowed Geno Smith from a defensive standpoint to have a perfect quarterback rating and pull off that victory that not only prevented you from producing the first winning season since 2008, but also prevented you from making it to the playoffs since 2008. This is the chance for Ryan Tannehill to get redemption because when his team needed him, he couldn't carry the load. He couldn't put the team on his shoulders. And they need him now, especially while this offensive line is a piecemeal unit with backups starting, especially while Devontae Parker is ailing with that back injury that he suffered last week against the 49ers. They need Ryan Tannehill to play good. Can't be Ryan Tannehill.
Right, he's got to be better.
He's got to be better.
He was Sunday.
He was definitely
He was Sunday. Alex, why aren't we kicking field goals over 45 yards? Is Andrew Franks that much of a worry for the coaching staff? I said last week we were going to talk about Andrew Franks, and here we are talking about Andrew Franks.
Listen, when they decide, Andrew Franks has a leg to kick a 52-yard field goal. I think some issues are being worked out right now because he's had a lot of field goals blocked. And a lot of the reason why he's had a lot of field goals blocked is because to kick with distance, he kicks at a low angle. It's blockable.
Right.
Now, you have to block it up well. Now, I don't think the Dolphins are comfortable enough in their blocking protections with the offensive linemen out. Because remember, Mike Pouncey's on that unit. Larry Tunsil's on that unit. I'm not even sure Brandon Albert's on that unit. When you've got replacements in there, it might make you a little bit queasy. To quote Joe Philbin.
And that gets the feel. Adam Gase is going with his gut on that play.
Okay.
He's going with he's not going by numbers. He's not looking at a chart. He's not looking at and
you can't lose you're saying that he looked at it from the standpoint, I can't lose the momentum of this game right now.
Right now I don't feel good about what could happen if we try to make this field goal. So we're not going to try this field goal.
Okay.
I think that's
I
I don't think that's bubble guts. I don't think that's him being nervous. I don't think
he's an aggressive guy.
He's an aggressive guy, but at that moment he's got to trust his gut, and I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with it either. It was a little bit concerning because Andrew Franks hasn't had the greatest of seasons,
right.
But he's not in position to score a lot of points just because the offense is actually finishing in the red zone. So I'm not saying that I'm complaining, but it was a little bit troubling. Maybe if the distance was a 49-yarder or a 50-yarder, he would have felt a little bit better about it, but he didn't.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a good team going through an entire season without having to make a big-time field goal.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't know if Andrew Franks can do
He
that.
might need it this week against Tucker because
Sure.
Tucker's the best
He's
kicker.
the best there is.
He's the best there is.
All right, let's move on and talk a little bit more about this great start. Dolphins after 1-4. We said it was against some good teams.
Do you remember those 1-4 shows we were doing?
Well, I remember the 1-3 show after that being, hey, no reason to flip out here. These were tough games, a lot of them on the road. No reason to really get all upset about it. And then they lost at home to Tennessee, and we said, okay, now it's time to give up.
Now it's time to panic.
And now, now we're fine. So
Tennessee doesn't look that bad, though.
no, not at this point they don't.
Rashard Matthews is bowling.
Right now, and I mean the teams they change as the season goes along.
Oh, absolutely.
Obviously, I think the Dolphins would beat the Bengals if they play them today. But the way that the Bengals were then, it was a tough game.
Yeah, they don't have A.J. Green. Like,
Right.
well,
Don't
how
have
many
A.J.
yards
Green.
did-
Don't have Giovanni Bernard. Don't have
Yeah, how many yards did A.J. Green
right.
have? Like 2,000?
You talked about it on Twitter. Most of the big plays that the Dolphins have given up in the passing game
Yeah.
all season were in that one game to A.J. Green.
Absolutely. The Dolphins, and this is what's really impressive about this defense, they can't stop the run to save their life.
Right.
But it's not like they're getting gashed by running backs. It's just they are a bend but don't break defense. And they don't want you to get the big play. They'll do anything to get, you're going to have to nickel and dime them all game to get what you're going to get. And eventually they're going to wait for you to screw up. And it's a brilliant kind of mad genius philosophy where you're just going to have to, this is how defense used to play the Dolphins. They're like, we know you can't beat us big.
Right.
But you can't put together a 12-play drive without making a mistake. A holding call, an interception, a sack, a run for negative yardage. And that's what Vance Joseph waits for. And when they get it, they seize the opportunity. Now, but from a defensive standpoint, they've improved drastically, sewn it together. Byron Max is playing well. Tony Lippett's playing well. Bobby McCain, not so much. The safeties, they've got 3 safeties rotating in to make up for the loss of Rashad Jones. And they're right now one of the hottest secondaries in the NFL. From a turnover standpoint, from a quarterback passer rating standpoint, they've only allowed 5 plays of 40 yards or more. And 3 of them came from A.J. Green. So that shows you where they are in terms of how they've made steady progress. And it's very impressive.
But now we're here in December, and these games do seem to, they're not unwinnable down the stretch here, but they do seem to be taking you up a notch this game. At Baltimore, home game against Arizona, road games in New York, Buffalo, tough places to play, and then, of course, the Patriots. So what do the Dolphins need to do to take this whole thing to a next level and book their ticket to the playoffs?
Defense has to improve. And I just sang the praises of the secondary. And they deserve the credit that they're getting. And when Xavier Howard comes back, maybe they'll even improve another notch up. But this run defense, you cannot spend all year the 30th worst run defense in the NFL,
Right.
giving up 4.6 yards per carry, and think that you're going to win games that matter against tough physical teams. They've got to get better on the defensive line. And I know that Earl Mitchell coming back helps Ndamukong Suh, and it helps Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips' play has taken an upswing a little bit because he's a little bit more rested, but they've got to find somebody else on that defensive line that can help them in terms of the rotation. Now, Mario Williams can play defensive tackle and can play defensive end, but he has like Ebola now. He's sick.
Wow, yeah, he looked terrible.
Yeah, he looked terrible after the game. It's just going to be a steady. You got to hold the line. You got to hold the line, and then the linebacker play has to get better. And to me, that's Jelani Jenkins. He's a guy who's battled injuries all season. It's been the hand. It's been the knee. He's got to get healthy, and he's got to get better. And then Neville Hewitt has got to play more consistent. He's flashed at times. He's had good games, but then he's had bad games. Last week against the 49ers was a bad game. He's a young player that needs to figure it out, needs to find his way, and he needs to be at a consistent level if they're going to beat the Ravens.
All right, let's take some more of your questions. James, who's playing better right now between Maxwell and Lippin?
That is a good question because they're both playing at a very high level. I think Maxwell's ability to understand offenses, because he's a former wide receiver, and recognition. The defensive player said that he called out that exact play that the 49ers used, that he tipped the ball into the ear and allowed Kiko Alonso to make the interception. I mean, he comes from the wide side of the field to chase down that player, I think it was a tight end, coming across the middle of the field in the seam, knocks the ball into the air. Kiko Alonso gets the interception. Lippett is playing at a high level, but Byron Maxwell, at the beginning of the year, I was like, he's not playing as bad as people think.
Right.
Every year, Dolphin fans, they got to have a punching bag. We thought it was going to be Dallas Thomas this year. Dallas Thomas is gone. They're like, oh, who's our new punching bag?
Right.
It became Byron Maxwell. And Dolphin fans would see penalties and see the touchdowns, and they're like, man, Byron Maxwell's trash. Well, did you see that he got picked on an illegal pick, which refs are allowing nowadays? Every touchdown he has in the red zone, it's like it's a pick play where he's illegally picked. Refs never call it, and then holding calls. Dolphins Vance Joseph won't admit it, but he'd rather you hold than allow a big play.
Sure.
If you're going to have Byron Maxwell cover a speedy receiver like Mike Wallace, which might be trouble, he's going to hold.
Yeah,
He's going to pass interference. It's just going to be the way it is. For what he's doing, I think Byron Maxwell is playing at a higher level than Tony Lippett, but they've both taken their games to another level.
All right, let's take our next question from Mamba. What do you feel is the main factor in Kiko Alonso getting back to a high level of play this year, health or scheme?
I think it's a little bit of both. The scheme he's familiar with because it's similar to what he ran in Buffalo when he was a rookie of the year candidate. But health-wise, the Dolphins do so much from a GPS tracker, from health and nutrition, monitoring sleep. They do so much from a scientific standpoint. Players began to hate it, and then they realize, it's paying off. When a player is injured or starting to peak down, they can tell based on the performance, and they can tell he needs some rest. And coaches give them that. So they monitor snap count. So I think I'm going to have to give it to the science staff because they've done everything that they can possibly do to make sure Kiko Alonso's playing well and playing healthy and is playing at a consistently high level, and he is. He's definitely playing at a consistently high level.
Is Alonso's, though, the big plays that he's making, which most of the time have to do with him sort of being in the right place at the right time, a tip ball to him, a forced fumble in his hands.
He's around the ball a lot.
Is it more that's kind of making people think he's playing a little better than he is because he's showing up in the stat sheet so much? Because the Hyde touchdown, that was kind of on him.
That was on him. He allowed two touchdowns.
So
two touchdowns against 49ers.
So it's you're taking the good with the bad with him a little bit.
He is the focal point of the defense. The entire defense works around him. So a lot of the plays are funneled to him. A lot of the tough assignments and tough coverages go to him. But he has a hard job. He's got to cover backs. He's got to cover tight ends. He's got to stop the run. I mean, there's a lot that he's got to call out the defense. There's a lot that's being put on his plate. I think.
And he's got to play with two subpar linebackers next to him.
Damn, you called him out like that?
You did earlier. I'm just jumping on it.
It is what it is. You're right. If he had I will say this. I think he's more of a weak side linebacker.
Right.
And if you can get a Carlos Dansby type and put him on the inside linebacker, man, your defense could probably be good. A guy who can sniff out the run and play and just fire away and get it. Kiko can't do that. but he can do a lot of other things well. And I think if you have him stay in his lane and do those things well, your defense can get to the next level.
You mean getting a young guy like Denzel Perryman?
I don't, Denzel
Anyway.
Perryman can't cover the run, can't cover the pass.
All right, then let's take a quick question.
But I hear
with
where you're going.
Finns 23,
I want
Jets
somebody
3.
better than Denzel.
All right, what is your take on Mike Tannenbaum's ability to build, draft this roster? Depth seems better than expected.
I would disagree with the depth better than expected comment. Tell me, yes, you're making it work with Bakari Rambo, Tony Lippett, Donald Butler, and
Marquise
Andre Branch,
Gray.
Marquise Gray, Andre Brandt. I could give you credit for that.
Right.
Because those are all talents that other teams said, get out of here. We don't care. But I give coaching more credit because Vance Joseph and Lou Anarumo are responsible for getting Tony Lippett to play at the level that he
Sure.
is. Bobby McCain still needs to take it to another level, but he's playing relatively okay. This is a 5th-round pick. Bakari Rambo, Mike Tannenbaum didn't get him prepared for that game. Andre Branch, I give him tons of credit for Andre Branch because this was a player he identified and said he's better than what he showed in Jacksonville. But to build and draft for this roster, I come into this season and I say depth was an issue. Depth still remains an issue. Let's not pretend like your offensive line is deep. Let's not pretend like you got nothing if Sam Young gets hurt.
Right.
None of those guys. Last week against 49ers, what were you going to do when Sam Young got hurt?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they sign some guy? They signed some guy.
Yeah, they
didn't
signed some guy. I didn't even tell you the guy's name.
I don't know the guy's name either.
But what were you going to do? You had no plan. You were just going to say, all right, game over.
Yeah.
And that's an issue moving forward that you've got to address. Let's not pretend like you didn't sign Dominique Jones off the street. You had him in training camp, but he's come out and helped you. Let's not pretend like you're like, oh, Dominique Jones, he's that dude. He's that great player. No, you got to get a little bit better from a talent evaluation standpoint. I would say they've been more lucky than they've been good.
Okay. So now we move on to this week's gigantic game against Baltimore.
Is it gigantic?
Oh, well, I don't. If for national perspective, it's gigantic. I don't think I think it's actually a bigger game for the Ravens to win
It
for
is.
their playoff future.
It is.
But it still feels big because this is a tough place to
It's
go
a
ahead and
playoff
play.
game. This is the equivalent or the closest thing you're going to get to a playoff game until you get to the playoffs.
Sure.
Probably at the end of the year when you're trying to, because to me, 10 is the bare minimum. You've got to get to 10.
To make it to the playoffs.
You've got to get to 10.
Right.
So that means you've got to win 3 of the next 5.
Right.
To get to 10, which we don't
Might
even
not be enough.
which might not be enough depending on what the AFC West teams do. So you've got to get to 10. You've got to win 3 of the next 5. You got Baltimore, you got the Jets, you got
Cardinals at home.
Cardinals at home,
At Buffalo.
and home
against the Pats.
At home against Pats. At Buffalo, in Buffalo,
Well, those last 2 games, if I'm the Dolphins,
you better
I
take care of business now.
definitely do not want to be going into those final 2 weeks needing both of those wins.
Yeah.
You do not want to be staring at Christmas Eve saying we have 8 wins and we need these last 2 because those are going to be tough. It's going to be freezing in Buffalo.
Yeah,
It's a
thanks.
night game,
You coming?
right? No, it's the Jets is the night game and then it's an afternoon game.
Oh,
But still,
it's a nightmare.
it's a nightmare.
I'm scared that I won't be home for Christmas.
Okay, well,
let's be honest.
let's get back and talk about the Ravens, and it is offensively looking pretty tough here with some of these guys that are injured. We've got Mike Pouncey, Brandon Albert, Laramie Tunsil, and Devontae Parker, all big-time parts of this offense nursing injuries. What's the update?
Well, we'll start with the unicorns. Mike Pouncey is probably not going to be playing, and I hope and pray that if he comes back this season, it'll be for the final month of the year. Mike Pouncey's hip, you got to start to begin to worry that it's a degenerative issue.
Right.
I mean, this is the 4th time he's probably going to need a surgery on this hip. This is something that could be career-threatening. And you don't want to rush him back onto the field when it's something of that nature. Brandon Albert practiced today. I promised the people that I would do a Harlem Shake. This is my bad Harlem Shake.
That's terrible. That's a terrible Harlem Shake.
It's
Get a little more? A little more? A little more? Just a little more.
Okay.
Okay.
That is the key to the defense.
Someone gift that, by the way. Okay.
That is the key to the defense. I mean, to the offense, because the meat of what Baltimore does is they beat you up on the front line.
Right.
What happens to Ryan Tannehill when his front line gets beat up?
It all falls apart in front of him, and he turns into a pumpkin.
Okay. you have to right now get Brandon Albert back. My concern is with that left wrist, his job is to do this.
Right.
Yeah, you could have him in a brace, but what's Terrell Suggs going to be doing all game?
Slapping at it.
Slapping at it.
Right.
So I'm concerned about that. Now the question is, Brandon says he could play. He could play. Brandon is adamant about proving to people that he's tougher than all his injuries, which he always says are fluke injuries, you know. But he wants to prove that he's more durable, and he's got money on the line.
Yeah, he does. Right.
This is an important year because next year is an opt-in year for like $8.9 million. Is Brandon Albert worth $8.9 million? Well, if he only plays 10 games a year, no, he's not.
Yeah, he's not.
Laramie Tunsil is practicing. The question is, will his shoulder, will it handle contact? I believe this is going to be a week where he's going to be given some contact and see where that shoulder is. Devontae Parker, I would be shocked if he played. I mean, he's in a back brace. He's banged up. We all know where Devontae is when he's not healthy. We've seen what he can be when he is healthy.
My goodness.
But how often does that happen?
Yeah. Well,
And
get him right. You
Yeah.
got to get him right.
yeah, definitely.
All right, and meanwhile, Ravens are allowing 3.4 yards per carry on the ground. So how much of this, unicorns or no, how much of this is a challenge for this Dolphins offense to get Jay Ajayi going?
This is a challenge for Jay Ajayi. If you want to prove that you are not the product of the unicorn offensive line, if you want to prove that you are a premier back, if you want to prove that you are a Pro Bowl caliber player, and he's up there numbers-wise,
Sure.
but let's be real, that was all unicorns.
Yeah.
He finished the job, but
So it's
Damian Williams
25%.
could have done some of that.
Yes, Damian Williams could have done some of that. And against the Niners, I mean, they were all out making sure that
True.
that JJ was going to run. The Ravens don't have to put 8 in the box to stop the run.
You're correct.
So they're going to need Jay Ajayi to make some plays.
He's going to have to break some tackles. I think you can implement him a little bit more in the passing game. I think the best way to attack the Ravens is to throw passes to your backs. If Jay Ajayi wants to prove that he is a Pro Bowl caliber player, this is the game to do it. And so I'm going to put the sombrero on his head because Ryan Tannehill is going to be under so much pressure without Devontae Parker. I have a high doubt. My doubt level that he can carry the load is very high. You're going to need Jay Ajayi to play like the Jay Ajayi we saw with the Unicorns.
And what you've just described, they're coming after Ryan Tannehill. And
They can stop the run.
need a pass to the backs.
Yeah.
Sounds like a big Damian Williams game to me.
Okay, that's a very excellent point as well.
Eric asks us, what's the best matchup for the Finns to take advantage of against Baltimore?
I would feel so much better if Devontae Parker were playing, but I think that this Baltimore secondary, especially if Jimmy Wilson doesn't play, can be exploited. Secondary has been sort of their weakness now.
For a long time.
For a long time. They play great with Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle's a scary guy.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. But some of these secondaries, some of these cornerbacks can be exploited. I'm looking at this as a big Jarvis Landry game. I'm looking at this now with Devontae out. Kenny Stills is going to have to step up and be that big play threat. He can't afford to drop or not give full effort. You got to get him healthy with that calf injury. I feel so much better if Devontae Parker was playing, but I doubt that's going to happen.
All right, James, the key to Adam Gase's success, that players feel he has their back by doing things like holding them out on injuries longer, etc.
I think the key to success for Adam Gase and the coaching staff, and I've been saying this consistently throughout the year, is the accountability standpoint, the honesty standpoint, the trust factor.
We're all in this together.
Yes, we're all in this together. And not only that, but we're going to hold ourselves accountable. We talk about it on previous shows. How many times has Adam Gase said, That was my bad.
Right.
I didn't do the right
Every
thing.
single press conference, he's saying something.
Every week, I got to do a better job of this.
Right.
And when your coach does that, when the hell has Joe Philbin ever taken accountability for anything he's ever done wrong?
And not to attack Joe Philbin, but I think most NFL coaches.
Most NFL head
NFL
coaches. You know, we could sit here and as Monday morning quarterback, which is my job, what I do.
Sure.
I could point out things and say, this needs to be, you know, you got to, this 4 running back rotation, it's not going to work. You don't realize it now, but it's not going to work. He'll come back 2 weeks later, you know what, that was a bad idea. It didn't work. Let me go with one back. And when players see that, it makes them more accountable. When Vance Joseph says, do this defense, be in your gap, even if the running back is right over there, if your gap is over here, stay here. Because that's for somebody else to make the play. And when you don't stick to the script, we are in trouble because we open up big possibilities for big plays. Players are buying in. Players are believing in it. And they know if we just do our job, we're going to be good.
I think what's interesting, too, about this game is this is one of the first games during this streak that Adam Gase is going up against a really good other head coach on the other sideline.
Are you saying Chip Kelly is not a good head coach?
I don't think he's proven that he's a good NFL head coach.
Okay.
But John Harbaugh has.
John Harbaugh has. I
Since
think
Tomlin, to start it off.
Since the streak, Tomlin's, okay.
Okay.
Hold on, you disrespecting Rex Ryan now? Wait a minute. Oh, man, you don't believe in Rex Ryan?
Who do you got on Sunday?
I am going to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
For this reason. Everybody who knows me knows I am a Ravens fan. I believe in how they build teams. I believe in Ozzie Newsome is the best in the game. They have issues. Ravens have issues. Offensively, they got issues. Eventually, they're going to figure it out. This is the defense where as long as you can protect Joe Flacco, and they can protect Joe Flacco, they should be able to figure it out against Miami because who's going to stop the run? So I think I'm predicting a 24 Ravens, 21. I'll make it close. Ravens victory. I think this is the end of the road because there are no unicorns. Because
you're thinking that there even Albert's out there. Albert's practicing today.
If Albert plays, you have a better chance to win because you're not going to be as manhandled in the trenches as you would generally. But I just have a hard time believing that Albert and Laramie Tunsil are going to play and they're going to be able to protect Tannehill.
I think the Dolphins are a better team than the Ravens are right now.
Okay.
I think they're playing better than the Ravens are right now. And even though the Ravens are at home, even though the Ravens are more desperate to win a game, I'm taking the Dolphins to win this game with a healthy Brandon Albert, 24-19.
24-19. How do you get to 19?
There's so many different ways.
Oh,
so many different ways.
All right.
Justin Tucker's going to have an extra point blocked. Okay. If you're watching us live, stay with us because we'll do X's and Omar overtime. We'll get to all your questions.
We got some good ones today,
And we've got some good ones, so stick with us. And also, if you like to just listen to us and don't like to see our faces, you can listen to the X's and Omar podcast. Just search iTunes for X's and Omar. It's going to be fun in Baltimore this weekend.
Yes,
It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
I'll bring up the X's and Omar page.
Okay, welcome to X's and Omar Overtime. We are setting up, grabbing some of your questions here.
Okay.
As it's happening, Omar, let's take his question from Jason.
All right.
Most agree that Andrew Luck is better than Ryan Tannehill. But why are their career stats so similar?
That is a very good question. And I think that people will always say that Andrew Luck is a better quarterback because he plays better in clutch situations. If you look at where Ryan Tannehill is during his career, there's 3 glaring areas where he needs to improve. Win record. Andrew Luck has led his team to the playoffs the past couple of years. Third quarter performance. Andrew Luck has generally been better, maybe not this year. and fourth quarter performance.
Sure.
Andrew Luck has led his team to more fourth quarter comeback victories.
And I'd say this too. It gets back to this whole, when you see a team play in big games,
Yes.
it affects your perception of the players. And whether or not that's fair or not, whether or not, you could make an argument that if the Dolphins were in the AFC South with all those garbage teams for the past 4 years, maybe Ryan Tannehill would have played in a playoff game. Unfortunately, they're in the same division as the Patriots and haven't been able to make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So
when you're the little brother of the Patriots, it has an impact on you.
and the way that division has worked out, the Colts have made it to the playoffs, and we've seen Andrew Luck under the bright lights, and we haven't seen Ryan Tannehill.
Let me
under the
ask you a
bright lights.
question. Let me ask you a question
Yeah.
from Luke Markrin. What's the biggest difference in the Dolphins team from week 1 to now? Curious to hear your answer because you've been around the team long enough.
I would the biggest. I mean, certainly everything changed once Brandon Albert, Mike Pouncey, once the Unicorns came. And that's the reason why we blow it up so much, is because everything changed when they got healthy. But I think it's the buying in of Adam Gase too. I mean, on both sides. I think Adam Gase has figured out how to use Ryan Tannehill in a better way than he did at the beginning. Because I mean, right now, I'd love to go play that game in Seattle again. This Dolphins team, if they were playing the way they're playing now, would have won that game in Seattle.
Okay,
Now, granted,
valid
Seattle's
point.
playing a little better now, but still.
Yeah.
And you see, like I said, you see the belief. You see the offense clicking at a different level than you did right at the beginning.
I think it's comfort and familiarity in the offense and defense. Ryan Tannehill, they've catered an offense to him. It took a little while to get there. And then we start to see the offense take off when Devontae Parker got there. Because Ryan was always been playing at a consistently high level. The problem is the players around him were not playing at that level. And when you got Kenny Stills dropping balls, you got Devontae running non-good routes, 70% running routes out there. You've got the offensive line not being able to protect him against Cincinnati and Tennessee. Tight end, good God. How many games was that an issue for during the season? Everybody has stepped up their level of play and has a better understanding of the offense. And defensively, good God, they've gotten so much better than where they were. They're not good yet, but they have the potential to be good.
Yeah.
And you see the potential is there. Now it's about tightening those screws.
And momentum is a real thing because confidence is a real thing. And when you've got, Jay Ajayi had his confidence shattered at the beginning of the season.
Motivated, I would say.
He got motivated, and then he got motivated, and he got that confidence back once the Unicorns started playing.
While you get that, let me get one more.
Sure.
This is from Consistently Focused. At the current state of the team, what do you see as the Dolphins' #1 need in the draft and free agency? I've said this consistently, and I will continue to say this. They need more defensive line help. Mario Williams, I would be shocked if the Dolphins honor his contract next year. Jason Jones is free agent. Andre Branch is a free agent. You're probably going to have to address the defensive end position. Cameron Wake is 34 going on 35.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to address the defensive end situation and defensive tackle because I think you need to add another defensive tackle in there. Not probably #1 pick, but I think that's going to be a priority in either the second or third round.
I think best guy available on your board, any lineman, offensive or defense, best guy available on your board, I think.
Okay. You also need a linebacker, so that is a major issue.
Yeah, I guess what we're talking about. In my mind, I'm thinking first round.
I don't
your
know.
first round pick, you take the best lineman available on your board, I think.
Offensive or defense?
Yeah.
Okay, I buy into that.
Here's a good question, because this is something that we haven't brought up
Okay.
at all
All right.
during this streak, is how great the Dolphins have been at keeping the ball and not turning the ball over. It's huge. So Fabian, true or false, Miami will win the turnover battle this week. As long as they continue to keep taking care of the ball the way they're doing.
I think that's more luck than
okay.
talent. I'm not a big believer in Ryan Tannehill takes care of the ball. He's done that consistently throughout his career when he's not fumbling it. So he's not going to throw into coverage. That's just not what he does. That's just not his game. So, but sometimes the ball has to bounce your way,
Sure.
especially on the turnover standpoint. Joe Flacco's got to throw some challenging passes. And while I love Joe Flacco because he's got a big sack and he throws some challenging passes,
Right.
You got to be putting yourself in position to get those turnovers. And I think the Dolphins can do that. So I think they probably win the turnover margin on this one.
Sure.
Alex Mahler asks, what's going to be the definition of success for this year's Dolphins? Winning schedule, playoffs, Tannehill consistency. Love your answer. Let's see what you got to say on this one.
I've seen what your answer is. I know what your answer is.
What is my answer?
Your answer is that 9-7 is still a good season.
Absolutely.
So I don't disagree with that. If they lose this game and somehow, if they win this game and then fold down the stretch, that wouldn't be great. That wouldn't be great.
No, it wouldn't be great.
That would not be great.
It would depend on the circumstances to me.
Yeah,
it would just
sure.
depend on the circumstances. You could lose Brandon Albert for the year, and I would say 9-7 is good.
In some ways, what we wanted to have accomplished this season was to know that Adam Gase is the right man for this job. And no matter what happens the rest of the season from now, we know he's the right man for the job.
Okay.
So really, it's already a win.
So I think then the answer, according to Alex's question, is Tannehill consistency. Because to me, I'm always going to be, I'm naturally built this way, a glass half empty kind of guy.
Sure.
I always prepare for the worst because if I get better than the worst, well, great. Like I prepared for a 7-9 season. We're at 7 wins already. I'm playing. I'm playing with house money right now. The biggest issue that I think still facing this franchise, and this is something long term, because clearly Tannehill's going to be here. Clearly Tannehill's going to be the quarterback.
Right.
Is can Adam Gase make Tannehill consistent? Because we've had stretches of seasons where Tannehill has played at this exact same level for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he turns into a pumpkin. For whatever reason, whether you want to blame it on the receivers, whether you want to blame it on protection, whether you blame it on defense, whatever reason, he can't stay at this level. If Adam Gase can get Ryan Tannehill to stay at this level, no matter what the outcome is, there is hope, there is belief. And I think you've got a franchise that could possibly dethrone the Patriots. If Tannehill can stay at this consistent level, if he can consistently be a 95 or better rated quarterback every game throughout his career, you got something.
I would say the difference now is I feel like we have reason. We know the plan. The plan is something we believe in. This is a team. This is a coach that
We don't really know the plan because it continues to evolve.
well,
But that's the good part. Good coaches can
the
continue
plan
to
that
evolve.
we know is that Adam Gase wants to run the ball down teams' throats. That's something
Now.
we haven't seen
Now,
Well,
because
now.
he figured out it works.
because he figured it out. And when that's the plan, Ryan Tannehill is going to play better. All right. So that's good.
Yeah, step in the right direction.
Aaron wants to bring up Jakeem Grant.
Oh.
Is it time to pull him from the punt duties?
No.
Yeah.
You got sometimes when young players, and this is why I don't like young players. I don't. You know this. You've been doing these shows with me long enough. I don't like young players because they get their confidence rattled and then they go in the tank. You cannot give up on Jakeem Grant. Not that I believe he's that great of a talent, because I don't. But from a confidence standpoint, this young man, if he doesn't rebound from this,
Yeah, he's gone.
he's gone, and he's a waste. You got to give him a chance to rebound and get out of this funk. We've always known and said his hands were an issue.
Yeah.
It's not my imagination, and it's not a coincidence that he's now dropping punts. He needs to be out there every day after practice, fielding 30 to 40 punts, so that he can build his confidence back up, because that's the only way that it's gonna get him to be that threat that he has the potential to be. And he does have the potential to be a returning threat. Do I think he has the potential to be a dynamic receiver? Hell no.
Right.
But as a return specialist and a threat on that aspect of the game, yeah. But if he can't do it, and if you lose confidence in him, why is he here? You got to give him a chance.
I'm going to talk to him today about it.
You got to give him a pep talk?
Yeah, okay.
He's such a confidence kid.
We're getting this already, so let's do some really quick ones, okay?
All
Trifected. If Parker is out, is Leonte Carew, fresh off his first TD, ready for a bigger load?
No.
Okay.
It will be put on his shoulders, but is he ready? No.
All right. We haven't seen much from, this is from Slick 6971. We haven't seen much out of Walt Aikens as a DB. Has he fallen this far where he's just a special teamer?
Yes.
Okay.
Walt Aikens has lost the coaching staff's confidence.
Jim wants to know, game may move to a 4 p.m. game. Does that mean it might be televised nationwide?
No.
The answer is no.
No. The answer is no.
Nope. Malchiwick. If Xavier Howard gets healthy, do you see him or Lippett getting snaps at nickel?
No, on both. Nickel's a very specific position. That's a very hard position to play. You have to be very contact driven. Maybe Xavier Howard, but he has to practice at nickel and he hasn't. And I have a hard time believing that the coaches are going to, when he comes back, they're going to have him do exactly what he's familiar with and accustomed to at the beginning of the season so that they can continue to see him make steady progress. They're not going to put him in a position to turn down.
All right. Michael, who is the most improved player on the team?
From this year or from the early, or from
I guess, well, I mean, he didn't, obviously. Let's say
Most
from
improved.
last year, who's the most improved player?
Jay Ajayi? That's
Yeah,
an
that's
easy
kinda
answer.
what I was gonna say, too.
That's an easy answer. But I think from the 1-4 start to now, I would say Byron Maxwell. I mean, he wasn't playing that well,
Right.
but now he's at a very high level, and he does what he's supposed to do very well. Tony Lippett, no, take that back. Tony Lippett, I didn't
That's
even
true.
think this guy was anything more than a special teams player at the beginning of the year, and now he's I won't say quality NFL starter, but he's an NFL starter.
Okay, double question from Carlos, and this is it. Has there been an extra emphasis on having Tannehill run when things break down?
Yes.
It seems that he's made a couple of crucial first downs at the right time. Also, how severe is Tunsil's shoulder?
Tunsil's shoulder is not that drastically severe because usually a shoulder injury shuts down offensive linemen if it's really that bad. In regards to the Tannehill question,
Yeah.
the coaches have worked with him on speeding up his footwork, moving more in the pocket, consistently keeping moving in the pocket so that you're not as stagnant as he is. His issue is when he's moving, his accuracy has been off. Now he's moving more and accuracy's still good. And also they've made it more, they want you to run. They've said, Tannehill, we need you to run. Run for first downs.
Yeah.
Run for, I've always said that's the easiest way for a quarterback to cheat. You don't like what you see downfield, take it up the A-gap, and go run for the first down. Slide. It's free. It's 3 more plays. Easy play. And with Tannehill, nobody's shadowing him like they have to do Colin Kaepernick. He's an athletic quarterback, and he needs to use that athleticism. Now, do I agree with 3 straight runs on a QB read option? No. But my hope was that Adam Gase was setting something up, and maybe setting something up for the next game against the Ravens. Hint, hint.
All right, Damien's got a couple questions. It's worth asking one more time. If the Dolphins win Sunday, can they win the division?
You keep this division conversation going.
Hey, this is what the people want to know.
No, they're not going to win the division.
Okay.
No.
We'll
The
see.
Patriots are the Patriots. Is Tom Brady going anywhere?
No.
What about Bill Belichick? Is he going anywhere?
No.
Okay, they've had 16 straight winning seasons. How about you get 1?
Okay. We'll see.
How about you get 2?
We'll see.
All right. This is crazy. You keep doing this.
Thanks for watching Xomar Overtime, and I wonder if we'll be talking about a 7th straight win next week. We'll see. We'll see you next week.